Oh, we are live, aren't we? Let's see here. I'm live. I'm live. Oh, that worked out. Jesus Christ. It's public. Obviously it is. Anyways. All right, let's see here. Turn this gain down slightly. All right. All right. So we're here. So not sure if there's anybody in here right now. Turn this audio off. All right. What's up? What's up? What's up? Jay here. So this is actually my first live stream for the Shillverse. So um, I actually, due to some recording issues, I'm actually going to take this, put it over on the Shillverse channel. But this is on my main channel, our main channel, me and Mika, Jay and Mika. So thank you for checking out. So we're going to talk about a couple of things, comic books based, whatnot, a little bit of news that we got going on now. But first thing I want to get into, if you see this graphic, you know what I mean? We got a great picture of myself. Hair's looking pretty lit, you know what I mean? Everything. And you got the Superman thing. And if you see the title, I want all the smoke going into 2026. And I'm going to pull up some things to kind of show you guys some stuff of what I'm talking about. But this goes out to mainly the Snyder bros out there. Now, let me say this. We can have a dignified conversation, debate, talk, whatever. I just love to interact. And I think it's good for the community overall. I'm not one of those people that needs to say things just to reinforce my own thoughts, whatnot. If you want to talk, let's talk. Let's have a debate. If you feel strongly about what you're saying about this whole restore the Snyderverse and all this other foolishness, if you feel that the DC universe sucks with James Gunn at its helm, that's fine. Let's talk about it. Don't be scary. Don't run like some of the people that I'm going to pull up, and not even running, just using YouTube just to reinforce your own thoughts and try to get people to follow you, to get your subscribers and your watch time up, because that's all it really is. If you really feel that way, that's fine. But if you don't, and you're just doing, that's just, it's disingenuous. I want to be one of the content creators that if you feel a way, we can actually have a debate or talk, or, it doesn't have to go left. If it goes there, like I said, I'm with the smoke. But if not, let's, maybe you could turn me, doubt it, but maybe I could turn you, doubt it. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? Let's just see. You know what I mean? So that's the whole thing I want to talk about, because ever since this purchase of WB, is it going to Paramount, Sundance? Is it going to Netflix, which Netflix has won? But, is our government going to get in and make sure that, people get it? You know what I mean? And that's the whole thing, and all of this just stems around, well, it doesn't all stem around, but the reason we're talking about it is the DCU. So here's the first thing I want to bring up with that. And then we're going to get into some trailers later, and that'll be it. This is just the first stream, so let's go. So the first thing I want to talk about with this, though, to be perfectly honest with you, is the fact that, let me switch this really quickly. I want to bring up my share screen here. One of the people that I want to talk about that I want to smoke with, been calling this man out. Man hasn't responded, which is, hey, that's his thing. He has more subscribers than me. On my other channel, my actual Shillverse, and check this out, go check it out, I only have like 60 subscribers. Pretty much any number that I have below his, he's going to run, because that's what he's going to do. He's going to run. And that's fine, to each his own. But the person I want to bring up first and foremost is Mr. Harsh Critics himself. This gentleman, I first came across his content. I forgot what the movie was, but I was looking up some stuff, and I was like, why does he keep saying every single movie that he watches sucks? Sucks. It's boring. Okay, cool. But then when I look more into it, I start seeing the Snyderverse stuff and whatnot, and which is cool. Like I said, to each his own, to each their own, you know what I mean? But here's the problem. As I've always said with certain things, I don't have a problem with your views. I have a problem with how you implement things in regards to. What do I mean by that? I mean the simple fact that he, in one of his videos, said, we're not going to watch this garbage, and our wallets are closed. And if they don't get it, then we will close our wallets to every other movie that company distributes. That is problematic. So because you can't see Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck and whoever as your favorite superheroes, you're willing to say, we want something else, and we're going to diminish the returns on every other product that you put out. So you're going to affect all of those other people that put in their hard-earned money for something that you have nothing to do with. You don't even care about. That is reckless, and that is toxic. That is a horrible position to have, because there are people out there that will feed off of that negativity, that toxicity, which is why we kind of got to this place in the first place, because it's not lost on me, being the Superman fan that I am, being the Man of Steel fan that I am. I liked Batman versus Superman, you know what I mean? But it's not lost on me how much the generation before that iteration of it hated that iteration of it. There was a ton of, it's not colorful enough, it's muted, Superman is emo, he killed General Zod, this happened, why is he crying, why is he not doing this, where's Clark Kent? It's all that's lost is because now the generation of the Snyderverse is that older generation. And do you remember as time went on, like I guess as recently as Justice League, how Superman needed a brighter suit? Yes, he had the black suit, we got that. But you do remember the critiques where they changed those things. It's because you can't please everybody. People like Mr. Harsh Critics here want to tear down the DCU and anything around it just so they can have some fulfillment, which they are not going to be satisfied with. Let's be perfectly honest about this. No matter what happens, it's not going to be satisfied. They're gonna be like, well, if it didn't take so long, if they wouldn't, there's always gonna be an excuse, whatever. That's what the Snyder Bros do. To be perfectly honest with you, and I'm not totally against the Snyder Bros because I understand it. I like that. I love the action of that world, but come on, let's be perfectly honest. It's a ton of foolishness, and it says a lot about us where we want to tear other people down to move whatever we want. It's so selfish. It's such a myopic view of things. It's so entitled. It's such a spoiled brat mindset to have. It's ridiculous. You know, let's look up another one. Now, these people, it's a little bit different. It's not the same, but the Lethal Geeks, right? Now, the Lethal Geeks, and I used to look at there, one of their road dogs, hey, right? You got Lethal Geeks got Harsh Critics on there because it's all that same echo chamber mindset, But I will say this, because the Lethal Geeks, it's a few of them, and they all have the same mindset, Snyderverse, which, like I said, I can respect that. But they do not try to tear down stuff. Now, do I think so? Like Mr. Murtaugh, I was watching one of his videos, I think last week. He had watched Superman 2025, which I personally have said is not a great movie. I've said that myself. It's not a great movie. I've watched it once. I went to watch it again, and no, was not good. Was not horrible, but wasn't good. You get what I mean? Like, it had good parts to it, but it wasn't an entertaining overall viewing. I get that, but I will say there was aspects to it that were better than the Snyderverse. Writing the story made more sense in a way, just dumb aspects to it. I don't know if that's James Gunn trying to overcorrect. Who knows? We're gonna see when it comes to, Supergirl, which we're gonna talk about that in a second. But the Lethal Geeks, they're kind of in that same realm. Hey, Snyderverse centric, which is fine. It's fine. I like that they don't necessarily try to destroy stuff. They want Zach in there more than they want Gunn. We get that, but mind you, here's a big part about this whole thing. Gunn is a better writer than Zach. Let's not get that lost. There has not been one of these Zack Snyder verse movies that have been very well written, period. As a matter of fact, most of Zack's movies are written horribly. He gets by on his visuals, his cinematography. That's what gets him by. And that's just a fact. Sucker Punch was a horrible movie. Looked great. Looked stunning. The Watchmen. Funny, people say, oh, you can't adapt it now. In the time frame true enough, they adapted The Watchmen, even though they switched to some on HBO when they did the series, but they pulled off the massive octopus at the end. They pulled off certain things that Zach couldn't, but I get time constraints. I get that. But that movie, while it was good, and it does have a cult following, I being one of them, I can recognize that it wasn't really the best movie. Should have been way better than that. Okay? Do we want to talk about Rebel Moon? Do we want to talk about Army of the Dead? What are you going to say? Day of the Dawn of the Dead or whatever it was, but guess what? Guess who was with him tonight and who wrote that? James Gunn. So, we're living in this realm where we're like, hey, Zach is he's not. That's not what he is. He is great visually. And he gave us some great options. Now, outside of that, let's pull something up here. Let's do a little comparison. Well, no, let's not. But give me 1 second. Let me do this. Because I say all this to say, I want to have these debates with people. If Harsh Critics decides to come out of his little shell and is able to, be manly, because I remember one time, this is not manly. Well, be a man. You're getting an open challenge as a man just to have a dignified debate about this thing. Or you can just, run to your wall. It's closed sector, and that's fine. But anybody, Lethal Geeks, anybody on the Lord, anybody that hops in my comments and says, hey, they just want to have a conversation. We could do it in the comments. We can do it live. It's fine. I have no problem doing that because I like to interact with my community, and I think the dialogue is a great thing. But don't doubt it. In 2026, I want all of the smoke. Simple as that. It's what it is. You know what I mean? So But so let's get away from that for a second, right? Let's get away from that. Let me pull this down here. I want to talk about um, some other news that recently, as we know, has been going on. And the biggest part of it, right down here. So, as you know, we've been getting these trailers. We've gotten Steve Rogers in the very first trailer for Avengers Doomsday, which was dope. You know, it showed us, hey, Steve Rogers will be back, which that was always kind of, I feel like it was always known, but that kind of clarified it. And then we got another one with Thor, which I think that was kind of pointless. Even though Thor is one of the pillars, he is like third on the run. It's Iron Man, Captain America, then Thor, depending on how you look at it, because that is interchangeable. The top two, Thor, I think was they could have did something different with that, right? But whatever, big deal. So in the most recent one, we get Cyclops shown, and I'm gonna show you here. You know, we get Cyclops, and boom, comic accurate, wearing the blue and the yellow. Mark Masson, great to see him back. You know, I always thought he didn't get a chance to fulfill what his, like everybody, the potential of Cyclops. They made Cyclops a, side character to, and it's so horrible. They like Wolverine fine, but then Mystique became the lead just because of, people say, well, I won't say it's, well, you need female representation. There are strong female characters. I don't do that whole woke thing. I'm not Mr. Madness. A woman could actually do something, and I'm like, oh, this is woke. I'm not going there. To hell with Disney. Too many girls. Like, I don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are strong women. There are strong men. You know what I mean? And Mystique was but also they had Jennifer Lawrence, who was like top tier at the time. Oscar, all that stuff. So, understandably so. But off of that. So, we get, and as you can see here, optic blast, boom, and everything. So what was going on to do that? Well, the trailer starts with a voiceover of Magneto, as we see here. More of a gristle look, more hair, all that type of stuff, which is cool, and whatnot. And it's him, and they show Professor X. And then as they're going through, they're showing them playing chess and whatnot. And then they go outside, and that's where you see, the shot of Scott Summers, Cyclops with the optic blast, and in the background, in the leaked footage, you can see what looks like a Sentinel's leg going across as the mansion is destroyed. So here's my thing. This is my question, right? And this really made me kind of irritating. You see Magneto, Professor X. Are we about to get another iteration of a Professor X death? Like, are they really about to do that? I don't want to see that again. Like, that's a lot. 5 times, essentially, like 5 times. Like, but it looks like that may be what we're going to get, unfortunately. But if we do, we do. But, hopefully, 5th time will be the last time, truthfully, because, it's Professor X. If we're going to get a new iteration of it, are they going to bring back McAvoy? Which I think would actually be kind of cool with the blending of the universes, to bring him back and then kind of take it from there. And maybe he be the new, another new, or he take over the timeline, give it some time with that. Because let's be honest, Patrick Stewart, he'll always be remembered for this, and Picard, but it's time for something different there. But I think we're going to get a 5th iteration of, that death scene and whatnot. So, who knows? What do you guys think? I personally, I don't need a 5th, I don't need a 5th one of it. But if we get it, we get it. That's fine. Whatever. Let's move forward. But hey, our first verification of us having, the X-Men in this universe, we knew they were coming, but boom, comic accurate, and it looks great. It looks better than that raggedy black leather stuff from Bryan Singer's 2000s, me personally. So now with that, we have the 4th trailer coming up, right? 4th trailer is supposed to focus around the Fantastic Four, obviously. The reason why I say obviously, and it depends on how you look at this, right? So the first one had Steve Rogers, and they unveiled the fact that he has a child. Doesn't say if it's a girl or a boy, just a child. In the second one, we get Thor, and he has Love, his adopted daughter, from Gore, the God Butcher. This last one, you have Cyclops, Scott Summers. I'm doing that for a reason because somebody got in my comments a week and a half ago because I said Cable. They're like, oh, it's Nathaniel Summers. Like, I know. Like, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know what his name is. Do I have to say both of them for everybody to be happy? No, his goddamn name is Cable. This dude's name is Cyclops. I know it's Scott Summers. Anyways, so we have that. But that could be a playoff of, Scott taking the lead from Professor X, Charles Xavier, if he ends up dying, if this is the fifth iteration of that. So that could be that type of thing. And maybe that's the parent-child, antidote with that trailer. And then this one we have, Fantastic Four, which, will be probably focused around Reed Richards. And right. Because we've seen, Franklin Richards in the last one, right? The son. So that could be a whole thing as it finished, and then, going forward. Also, it might have the Wakandans in it, because we do have the whole very the whole whatever around T'Challa, essentially, and the Black Panther mantle. Is it going to be T'Challa? Is it going to be Toussaint? Who will it be, going forward? And this could go with the parentage thing, which they could do the whole, imagine this, everybody wants T'Challa back, yes. And then, Toussaint ends up being like the Black Panther. What if they have a different variation of T'Challa come in, but they still push it over to Toussaint or something of that nature, It makes sense because there is a parental dynamic in that, variation also. So I think that would actually be pretty interesting. I don't know. We have such a way of being sticklers about things that I don't necessarily know if it would be good or bad, to be honest with you. I think it would be cool to see, but the slightest, people take comic accuracy and they take those things and they apply it where it fits to them, where they want it to. You got people, Batman, Ben Affleck, Batman's the best, Henry Cavill's is the best. Both of those are, comically inaccurate on various levels. But if it works for a person, they're willing to sidestep those things. Versus another iteration, which is extremely accurate, but if they just don't like it, then it sucks. You know what I mean? So we'll see what they do with the whole Black Panther thing, but that would be nice for them to show that when the word is we're not going to get any Doctor Doom. The word is that's going to be for the Super Bowl, which makes total sense. Drop all these little tidbits, build that anticipation, and then put the main one at the Super Bowl. Show us Doom. Show us all this. Show us more X-Men. Show us things we may not have, thought we were going to see. Show us Wolverine. Show us if we're going to get Hugh Jackman, which we probably will, but maybe we get another Wolverine. My vote for a new Wolverine would be Taron Egerton from The Kingsman. I think he would be a great Wolverine. Age appropriate. He actually has the height. He's not 6'2". I think he would be perfect. He's a good actor. I think he would be great for Wolverine. I would love that. Show us our new Storm. Who will we get for Storm? Keke Palmer would be a great Storm. There's a lot of people, that could be a good Storm, but with name recognition, Keke Palmer would be pretty good, I think. I know some people might say Jade Cargill, and I personally, if she could act, yeah. And she actually has done a movie with WWE just recently, but hey, maybe that was a precursor. Maybe they reached out to her and said, hey, we need you to get your acting chops up. Go ahead and do something, I highly doubt it, but because Storm is so important and has so much gravitas to her, you couldn't give that role to a newbie like that. I mean, hell, look, Halle Berry had it, and look what she did. Nothing. All right, so but yeah, that's what's going on with those few things. This is just a short little live. Just wanted to talk about those things. Like I said, this year, hop in the comments, go over to the Shillverse channel on here. That's my the sub channel to this one, and talk to me in the comments. Get at me. Hey, I'll bring you on the live. I'm gonna be doing these weekly going forward. But yeah, just a little bit, and just remember, Jay wants all the smoke. You Snyder Bros, get at me, and I'm gonna repurpose this and then put it up there. Snyder Bros, I want the smoke. Harsh Critics, holla at me.